Hey guys, and wait a minute. Hey guys, and Merry Christmas. um, so, uh, Welcome back to the series that I'm doing, documenting my game and such. I think calling it my game so far. Right. Anyway, so I have not updated in a while. Biggest reason for that has just been a lot of work. I mean, this is my senior project. I was also making a short film at the time. I will talk about that in my update video. But other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. So, what have I done previous to the past version, so to speak? So, well, let me just show you and kind of take you through what's going on here. Okay, so with this, as you can see, first off, it's a much more winter-esque kind of feel to it instead of the previous forest area. And that was just a simple, reskin and whatnot. But biggest difference you might notice immediately is a different character. Now, as you may or may not know, I recently posted on Twitter a GIF showing 3 different models. Those being Kondros, Theros, and Iskoros. Those are basically the 3 characters that I have right now. This, of course, is Iskoros, which is Greek for power. And the reason for that, is that he is, very powerful. Now, as like before, he has animations very much like Kondros, the blocky character. But this time, because of how I animated Kondros originally, I basically had to redo all the animations, which was, I mean, it took a long time. I actually had to basically recode everything, which was a very interesting venture, because I came across some complications I didn't think I would come across, like some things that, were very easy and simple to do, but turns out they're not. So again, yeah, he can walk in all directions, which surprisingly came with some complications, of course. And then he can also run. And I have this nice little animation of him like going like a box and like, I'm gonna come get you. So that's fun. He also has a jump, which I really like. It's kind of just like almost like a gorilla kind of thing. And then something that you wouldn't know when you first took a look at this is that he's got 3 different kinds of attacks. He's got a standing attack, a running attack, and an air attack. So his standing attack is basically just like Ganondorf's Warlock Punch or something. It's like, yeah. I didn't hit him. Yeah. So that is one thing that you may notice that is kind of a problem with the coding right now, is that he exploded before I hit him, which I'll get into why that is. So then I'll show you now the running attack, whoop, uppercut, nah, and then jumping attack, oh, and then you need to jump to do this. Yeah, slam. Slam. So yeah, and as you can see, it's very rough. It is very rough, and I still don't have, I don't have hitboxes on the trees right now, but that can be fixed easily. I just need to put a mesh filter onto it. But let me kind of take you through now. That's kind of, oh, this is what I've done visually. You can look away from the video now. Click away. But now let me take you through some more of the coding side of things. So obviously the biggest thing that is different is the addition of Iskoros. Now, just to take you through this, so as you may or may not know, I use this asset called GameFlow, which is basically a visual scripter that kind of looks like a component aspect. It's very handy, it's very useful. It does have its quirks, like sometimes I don't know what something is, and then when I try to look it up, it doesn't have a lot of information on it, so that's fun. But basically, a lot of stuff here is very much like Condros, where, like, you know, if I don't hit the shift key and I walk forwards, I should really turn off notifications. Yeah, so I have that for walking back, walking left, walking right, running, or all the directions orthogonally. I have a function to stop. I have a function to jump, and then this if fall is actually when I let go of it, then it changes the gravity. Now this is kind of something that I had previously, but now you may notice it's, you know, negative 18. This is just so that it's a little more snappy. Basically, you know, as I've shown before, what that does is it allows me to control my jump height. So like if I just want a short hop, I just tap, and then it does like a very short hop. But then if I want to, you know, jump higher, I just hold the button down and it goes much higher, and then I can do anything in between. And you may notice that he actually stops his jumping animation once I let go of the button. Kind of intentional, but it's probably something I need to fix. I do have a function that allows me to track whether I'm about to hit the ground, although there was a little bit of complications with that, so I don't know if I'll actually use that. But anyway, so, and then you'll see I have this like WDDS, SAAW things. These are for diagonal movement. And the way that the diagonal movement works is actually surprisingly complicated. Because you're basically, if you're wanting to go forwards and to the left, you want to hold down the forward and left key, right? But if you do that, then you say to the character, okay, you are not turning at all, as well as turning 90 degrees. Which means, you know, you add those up, he starts turning 90 degrees. So before, what would happen is that if I would hit W and D, then he would just start walking, you know, right, because that's what the math would suffice. So what I have to do with like the WD here is that I basically have to rotate him negative 45 degrees the other way, so that he starts walking in the right direction. Now, after that point, it is kind of just simple math, or so you'd think. For some weird reason, I don't know why it is, but when I did that for the back buttons being DS and SA, it turned out to be a lot more complicated, as you can see. So what I have going on here is, like, this is for down and to the left. So I have to subtract negative 225 degrees. Now that may seem like a very specific number, but I believe it is only, gosh, what is it? It is 45 more than 180 degrees, 225. So yeah, you know, like 180 plus 45 is 225. Pretty simple. And the reason for this is because of how, like, the angles work with turning around. So basically when I tell him to walk backwards, he turns around a full 180 degrees. And then if I want him to, say, in this case, walk left, that means that I need him to turn, oh, what was it exactly? Yeah, another 270 degrees. So he would go all the way around like that, which probably isn't really efficient. I should actually probably just have that be negative 90, but too late now. But then what would happen is that, like, I would get the right angle, but then for some odd reason, based off of the velocity that I would have when walking backwards and walking to the left, I would start walking backwards to the right while facing backwards to the left. So it would look like he was basically strafing while facing backwards to the left. It was a very weird thing. So I basically had to counteract that, as you can see here, with moving like actually this is the walking one, 0.1 to 5 one way and then 0.1 another way. That was just to counteract how he was moving, to move him in the right direction. And the reason why there's these two if statements here is to track if I'm running or if I'm holding down the left shift button, so that I can determine whether like how fast he's going that way, so how much I need to counteract that basically. So that was fun to figure out. And then I obviously have that for DS as well. And then I have the different attacks. Now, the way that these work is basically, as I'm holding down the attack button, like for the heavy idle punch, which is like the warlock punch, just standing, the E key has to be down, the W key has to be up, and the shift key has to be up. Basically, he has to be standing still, not moving. And then it'll play the animation. Now, to stop it, either the attack button has to be up or any of the movement keys have to be down, and then it'll stop it. Pretty simple stuff. For the uppercut, it's a very similar thing. If I'm running and I hit the attack button, so I could be running in any direction, but then I hit the attack button, then it starts playing the uppercut animation. And to stop it, I just have to let go of the button. Pretty simple stuff. The slam was a little different, and let me explain why. So for the slam, you want to be able to slam onto the ground and not in the air, and I actually had a bit of trouble with this originally. So as you can see, he doesn't actually slam until he hits the ground. Now, originally I had this as something different, but there was a weird thing. I'm wondering if I could like show what happened exactly. So basically, what I have the animation do is that there is the wind-up animation to go up, and then he holds it there for as long as I want him to, and then once he is close enough to the ground to time it right, he slams down and actually does the hit. And as you can see over here, with the animators, this is what is happening. So when I'm in the jump state, and then I go to the wind up by saying that slam start is true, basically saying like, hey, I'm starting the slam, go into the wind up, and he goes into the wind up, and then he automatically goes to hold it there for as long as he wants. And then, once the slam ground function, this thing over here, becomes true, then he does the slam hit animation, and then automatically goes into idle, which is the default. So, the problem that I ran into with this was how exactly the slam ground function was coming about. Now, as you can see, right now I only have it if he is grounded, basically. Then it goes. Originally, what I had it as was that there was a ray, or basically a line going underneath him that once that line would hit the ground, then it would trigger it. The problem is that it would start triggering it even if he was already grounded, whereas it should be triggering it only when it's in the air. So that was kind of a weird thing. It started basically triggering every time that I walked around, but weirdly not when I stood still. So like it would work fine as long as I just jumped and just attacked. But if I tried to walk or run and do it and then do like a jump and attack, then it would immediately slam in the air and not wait for the ground to hit, even though the line wasn't intersecting at all. Again, I honestly have no idea how this happened. If I find a way to recreate it, I might show you guys because it was just a weird thing. But yeah, so that's basically the long and short of it. This is a simple function to detect whether I'm on the ground or not. And yeah, stuff like that. So one of the ways that I wanted to track how to, when to attack somebody was to track the, basically the fist as to when it would hit. Similar to how before I tracked the the sword or the blade to see if it would hit. Here we go, the right brace. So like as you can see here, this is an on-trigger enter function, which basically means anytime when a trigger collider enters something, this is triggered, or that this program happens. So once it triggers it, it detects if the E key is down or the attack button is down, and or one of the animations for attack is playing. It also makes sure every time that a timer has expired. This basically means, and like I restarted down here, so that basically means that I had this problem that every time that I would attack, anytime that the hitbox would touch an enemy, then it would just constantly do damage to it. So what I would have it do is that I would have it hit and then start a timer. And then if that timer has already started, and if it's still going, basically if it hasn't expired, then it doesn't allow it to happen. It has to be expired in order for another attack to go through. And I just set it for a second, which is enough time for one attack to get through and for you to be able to hit again. Again, it's not a clean way to do it, but it's the way that I do it now so that I can like work my way up and stuff. But yeah, and then basically right now I don't have exactly a damage function. I just have a message that says, hey, you successfully hit, just to keep track of it. Now, as you saw before, the tigers exploded when I attacked them. That was fun. So I basically have this... Oh, there he goes again. I had this effect called Big Explosion that I found on the asset store. Very easy, very simple stuff. And so what I do is that for the tiger, specifically in the mesh itself, I basically have the same triggers here if the E key is down, and one of the animations is playing, and the... Oh, right, and I had this part different. And also if the other function here basically is just, okay, who hit you? Who touched you? You know? And if it was tagged as player, then this would go through. So this was the part where it is like you run, and as you're doing an attack, if you touch him at all, even if it's not your fist, then he explodes. Unfortunately, I did try to do it the right way, where like if the damage log were to happen, then it would do the damage, which would make sense. But I don't know why this is. And actually, I had a thing for this. I don't know if it's still here. Yeah. So there's this variable here that I set as true. I log the damage, I restart the timer, and then I set it as false. Originally, when this variable was true and the trigger thing happened, or the on collision enter happened, when those both happened, then it was supposed to trigger the explosion and the destruction. For whatever reason, that doesn't work. I don't know why. And I mean, I showed you right here, like, with the right brace. If all of this is true, then it turns the variable true and it logs the damage. And like, I can even, I won't show you, but basically this damage log would happen, which means that the variable did turn true. So then there is a window of opportunity for the variable to be true and to send that over to the tigers, but apparently there's not like enough time for that to happen, and I'm not sure what to do about that, except maybe add a new timer, make it wait for the timer, and then do it, but I don't know. I honestly don't know what I should do with this. But other than that, as you saw before, I have kind of a different texture with this. It's all nice and white and wintry. Merry Christmas, woo! So yeah, that's the state that this is in. As for my plans for the future, we'll have to see. I'm going to be working on this off and on. because, you know, I'm out of college now. Woo. So we'll have to see, you know, how much I have opportunity to work on this, what I can create off of this. I will say, by May of next year, I will have this completed. At least to a degree that I find it to be presentable. That was the goal originally, that still continues to be the goal, because there is a presentation that I'm going to have around there as to, you know, show off everything. It's like an art showcase for the college I go to, and although I'm graduated, they're still allowing me to show off everything because I graduated early and I wasn't able to show everything off. So yeah. Yeah, so that about wraps it up. Thank you for tuning in to this this version, I don't know, this week, this episode, whatever, of my game so far. I will continue to be updating this, and Merry Christmas to all, and to all have a good night. Anyway, bye! 君じゃなきゃダメみたい